What's going on, guys? Unknown Player here, and today in this video we're going to be comparing two of the most popular weapons in Crucible right now, and arguably two of the best PvP weapons you can get, being the Clever Dragon and also the Grasp of Malok. Obviously these two are in the same very rare archetype, which is the fastest rate to fire pulse rifles. The Clever Dragon has recently become very popular because of obviously Iron Banner and lots of good rolls dropping everywhere, but the Grasp is like the original version that everyone used to use, and there's also a third weapon in this archetype which is called the Waltz from the Future War Cult, and I'll talk about that weapon as well after I've compared the two main weapons. But a lot of people ask me which is better and about the rolls, so in this video I want to compare the two because one is really good in some areas and bad in others, and vice versa. So I'm going to explain what those differences are so you can hopefully know based on your playstyle what you like in a weapon, which is better for you. So firstly, let's talk about these stats, and simply put, stat-wise, the Grasp is way better. It's as simple as that. It's got more range, a faster reload, more aim assist, a ton more equip speed, better recoil direction, and also on top of that comes the bigger magazine by 3, which is 1 burst. And the only place the Clever Dragon actually wins is in the stability stat, which I'll get into later, but pretty interesting, the Grasp is pretty much better in almost every single stat. So after hearing that, you probably think there's no contest and the Grasp is definitely better. In 6 different ways, it must be the better weapon. But it is actually that simple because the perks are where it really makes a difference. So simply put, what the Dragon lacks for in stats, it more than makes up for in perks, which are really important. The Dragon has got so many amazing perks to choose from. Basically any version you get to drop for you is going to be amazing. It's going to be a really good weapon and easy usable. Also, the scopes don't change on the Dragon either, so they're always going to be good, whereas the Grasp you need to get lucky with like an OES scope or one of the few nice ones. The Dragon really does take the lead in terms of perks because almost every single roll is amazing and a really good beneficial weapon, whereas the Grasp things are a little bit different because it's got so many of those garbage perks that can roll in it, like Danger Close and Surrounded, Exhumed, and the ever classic Guerrilla Fighter. None of those can actually roll on the Dragon. It's impossible to get them, so simply on perks alone the Dragon definitely wins because you can't get a bad roll on it, whereas you can easily get a bad roll on the Grasp like Danger Close and Guerrilla Fighter with maybe no stability perks, and that's basically an unusable weapon. So that's why stats on everything and perks are really important on these two guns. Now, in terms of how the weapons feel, the recoil is quite important here because they obviously fire very fast, so it's kind of a make or break for the weapons. The Grasp definitely has the worst recoil. You can tell it kicks quite high, but it comes right back down pretty quickly. So it does kick quite high, but it doesn't have much side-to-side recoil, so it's very simple and you can get used to actually firing the weapon. It's almost like it's got counterbalance built into it, but it still does have quite a bit of kick to it. The Clever Dragon does kick more, but it's to the sides and isn't as high. So overall, I would 100% say the Dragon definitely has better recoil and is easy to handle in my opinion. Switching between the two, I can notice it so easily, and even without stability perks. You might remember my first ever Clever Dragon I got. It only had a tiny bit of stability. It was increased from like small bore or injection mold, so it was really small, but the recoil was so easy to handle, and I feel like a Clever Dragon without perks is almost the same as a Grasp with stability perks. So in terms of recoil, the Dragon is definitely better, and it does make sense because, like I said, it does have more stability in terms of its stats. It's the only one that's better. So the next thing to talk about is handling, and this is where the Grasp definitely wins. It's no comparison. It's got a way better equip speed, and it's not just better by a little bit, it's more than double that of the Dragon. So the difference is very noticeable. I can always feel the Dragon takes like a year to actually pull out the weapon and switch to it, and also when you start sprinting, to draw the weapon is also noticeable. And this is also really important because in close quarters, where these weapons shine, you do need to have good handling, and it makes the perk Quick Draw also quite important, and a very good perk for the Dragon, but it's important to note you can't use that at the same time as high caliber rounds. There's a trade-off there. But even if you did have a Dragon with Quick Draw, it probably still wouldn't be as fast and easy to handle as the Grasp with no perk. So in handling and equip speed is definitely where it wins hands down. So overall, stat-wise, the Grasp definitely has the better handling, like I said, and the Dragon has the better stability. For me personally, I would always go for stability. That's my personal preference. Like I said, it depends on which one you prefer in your playstyle. I'm just pointing out the differences so you can pick one yourself. For me personally, it's always going to be the Dragon because it does have a lot better stability, and it's a very easy weapon to get a good roll on. So stat-wise, those are the two main differences, handling and also stability. Now, a big thing that also comes down to with these two weapons is how you actually get them, which is also pretty important. And it's all good talking about the stats and which is better in certain areas, but it means nothing if you can't actually get one of them in the first place. And the Grasp is really difficult to obtain because you only get it from Strike Horde chests with skeleton keys, and even then you might get a bond and you still need to get lucky and hope you didn't get an awful roll like Guerrilla Fighter. Getting the weapon isn't just enough, you still need a good roll as well, and like I said, that's really difficult with so many awful perks that are available for the Grasp. Now the dragon is interesting because obviously during Iron Banner they are everywhere. I think I got like 16 of them in the most recent one, but while it's easy when FRD is setting them, that's not going to happen again for probably another 6 to 8 months, and we probably will have Destiny 2 trailers by the time the Clever Dragon is being sold again. So you better hope that you got a good roll from the last Iron Banner, because from now on it's pretty much your best bet getting them from the bounties, which of course can still drop them, but you've got like a 1 in 9 chance of getting that weapon out of all the others, and you're on a similar level to the Grasp, which I'd say is probably easier to get these days than the Dragon, because you can get a key after like 1 or 2 hours of strike grinding, and then you've got a decent chance of getting one and also possibly a decent roll, but you still need to wait till next month to have a chance of getting a Dragon out of those bounties. So Bungie did a really good job of actually balancing how you get the 2 best weapons in the game. The Clever Dragon will drop like crazy and you can get dozens of them, but that only happens like twice a year, but the rolls you do get will be very good, whereas the Grasp is always pretty slow to obtain, but you can get one anytime you want. You have to wait for Iron Banner, just get a key, but even then you're still at the mercy of RNG trying to get a good roll, which is difficult. So it's really interesting how that actually worked out. So I mentioned a third weapon, the Future War Cult Waltz, which is also in this archetype. Those 3 are the only year 3 weapons in this fastest rate of fire archetype of pulse rifles right now, so these are the only 3 worth paying attention to. Now this Waltz is pretty interesting. Essentially it's worse in every single way to the Clever Dragon in terms of its actual stats, which as already covered, the Clever Dragon is worse than the Grasp. So this Waltz is definitely lacking in terms of stats, and it loses in almost every single factor to the Dragon. The only place is better is actually stability, which is interesting, so it's technically the highest stability of all 3 of the weapons, but apart from stability, its stats are pretty weak and can't really compete. Although the perks are much better, they're not like the Grasp, they're pretty much the same as the Clever Dragon, they're all very, very good. So you can essentially go up to the Future War Cult vendor and keep on farming those packages and trading materials and trying to get a good version of the Waltz. The one that she's setting is really bad, doesn't have any good perks that you want, but if you can try and get one from the packages, you could get a roll which is actually decent and can compete to the other 2. So it's the most accessible pulse rifle by far, but of course it isn't that good stat-wise, and obviously it's not going to be as good as a God Roll Dragon, which is probably the best weapon in Crucible. It is still a decent weapon, and if you missed all the Iron Banners or if you can't get a Grasp, this is also a very good option. So the Waltz is also worth paying attention to, and can actually compete in terms of how accessible it is, but like I said, stat-wise it is definitely the weakest out of the 3. So that is my comparison between all 3 of the weapons in that super rare fast rate of fire archetype of pulse rifles. Let me know in the comment section which is your favorite. Do you have any good God rolls, and which do you like the most? If you enjoyed the video, a like rating would be much appreciated, and I'll see you guys in the next one.